City of Stevens Point, Police and Fire Commission meeting, recorded Tuesday, June 4, 2019.
I will call to order the Tuesday, June 4th meeting of the Stevens Point Police and Fire Commission. Leanne, would you please call the roll?
Carlson?
Here.
Kirschling?
Here.
Moore?
Here.
Ostrowski?
Here.
And Westcott.
Present. Item 3 is the President's report. I really don't have anything to report, so I'm just going to take care of that item right away. Let me back up to item 2. Tonight we have Denise Nash, who is the Portage County Communication Manager, joining us at the Police and Fire Commission meeting. Thank you for being here, Denise. I'm going to let Commissioner Carlson do the lead into this. As all of you know, Commissioner Carlson has been working with Denise, the county sheriff, other officials, our chiefs, on some communication issues that we have identified. And Ron, with that, I'll turn the floor over to you, and we'll go from there.
Oh, thank you. It all started out with the thought of doing a contract review for dispatching in Portage County after the city joined forces with the county. Since then, we've had 2 meetings, one with Denise, Sheriff Lucas, and Chief Deputy Ben Bedoin. And yesterday I met with the police chief, fire chief, the 2 assistant chiefs from both fire department, and then we have a 3rd meeting planned, just the chiefs to talk about it. But Denise volunteered so graciously to come in here and give us a little insight on the communication center. Denise is the manager. And how long have you been the manager, the head of dispatch, Denise?
I became the manager 6 months prior to the consolidation of the comm center.
Okay.
I've been dispatching for over 28 and a half years.
All right. Very good. Very good. And without further ado, it's all your show. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. And why I volunteered is because I think the more people that realize and have an insight of what the comm center is about, the more that they have an understanding of what can entail. Because the phone calls and officers can have an idea, but unless you have the real insight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a presentation. Feel free to ask me any questions. I'm not afraid to answer. I've told cops where to go for the last 28 and a half years, so just feel free. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Our personnel center, we answer 911 for law enforcement, fire, and EMS.
Denise, let me just pause for a moment.
Sure.
Do I need to have Denise move closer to that microphone for you? You're good? Okay. Thank you, Denise. Please continue.
What I'm going to do now is I'm going to play a video of, it was taken from, now I can't even think of his name. It's at the end of the video, and it's about, the name of it's called So the Sheriff Hired a Dispatcher, and basically depicts the job of a communications technician.
911, what is the address of your emergency? 911, what's the address of your emergency?
Emergency line 911.
Hi, I need help. 911, where is your emergency? Do you need an ambulance, police, or fire?
And on that first day, the sheriff looked down at his plan for the sheriff's office and said, I need someone to watch over these deputies. So the sheriff hired a dispatcher.
That is what the comm center looks like.
I need someone who will get up before dawn, be away from home for half the day, miss out on family life, work a 40-hour week in 3 days. So the sheriff hired a dispatcher. The sheriff said, I need someone who will answer 911 lines, give pre-arrival instructions, deal with rude people, ask all the right questions, call all the right people, document it all in 100 words.
That's what our CAD system looks like, computer-aided dispatch. That's what one position looks like.
The sheriff said, I need someone willing to sit at a computer all day, call out a record, cancel that record, give directions, listen to their problems, give the same directions again, answer their supervisor's questions, put callers on hold, run a registration, run a driver's license, run a criminal history, give a case number, squeeze in a bathroom break, find that information, add that information into the call, find a translator, talk to the media, stay on the phone and listen to the gut-wrenching screams, and then calmly answer the phone and tell the parents. The sheriff hired a dispatcher. The sheriff said, I need someone to watch over 100 deputies on the radio, check on the unit, repeat everything they say, type everything they say, run all the driver's licenses, run their registrations, check on that stolen car, run 4 criminal history. Check on that wanted man, check on that unit again, print everything, call the district attorney, call the judge, call the body car, call the other agency, check on that unit, dispatch the call holding, inform the sergeant, call the battalion, need a cold dinner, call for mutual aid, call for life flight, get more backup, check on that pursuit, work that shooting, stay calm and cool as steel when you hear your deputy screaming for help. And they need to send them all home safely at the end of the night. So the sheriff hired a dispatcher. The sheriff said, I need someone who will do all that for the entire shift with a smile, no complaints, and then do it all again tomorrow. So the sheriff hired a dispatcher.
Paul Harvey was who I was trying to think of. And that poem has been read by many other agencies throughout all over the country. So, Communications Center, the staff, we are the true first responders, and people don't really understand that, but who are the first people that are responding to the scene? The callers, the dispatchers, the contacts. So that's why it is communication techs, also known as dispatchers. We have 16 dispatchers when we're fully staffed. We have 2 communication supervisors, 1 on each work week, and then myself. We have the dispatch study that was done before we had the consolidation. When it was done, what they actually wanted for our communication center, for the call volume, for the number of citizens of the United States, of Portage County, was actually 20 communication technicians, 5 shift supervisors was what they recommended, and 1 communications manager. And of course, with what occurred back then with what the city and the county and all the officials, including probably some of you, is we just didn't have the funds for that. So we continue to run with 16. That is, again, when we're fully staffed. And I can talk about that afterwards. But it is, it's quite a feat of what the individuals that we have do. So some of the duties that we answered 10 emergent phone calls and 9 non-emergent lines, and that's including city and county. So all the city phone lines of 1500, 1501, 02, 03 actually come into our communications center. We have other lines from the county, and then we also have the cell phones lines that are come in. The Comtechs monitor over 20 radio state frequencies all at one time, and I can show you what wrong thing here. What I can show you on, if you look over there, the 20 radio. Actually, it's better over here because it's not going here. Okay. The radios are set up so we can program one frequency or we can program multiple frequencies. And with that, they will monitor over 20 radio channels. We page out for fire, EMS, and the medical examiner, also known as the coroner. Every Saturday at 11 o'clock, you hear those sirens. That's set off in the comm center. And we also create and send out community alert messages for emergence, for like the floods, for the water. But the emergent weather ones, as far as severe storms, tornado warnings, the flood warnings, the blizzard warnings that we had, those are all automatically set up. And that is still controlled through the comm center of setting those up. So there's quite a few things that we do besides. Some of the services that we provide for all three law enforcement agencies, Portage County Sheriff's Office, Stevens Point Police Department, of course, and the Plover Police Department. We have 33 EMS and fire agencies that we page out for. Other agencies we dispatch for, the coroner's office, State Patrol. They have their own radio frequency, but they monitor our channel and the city's channel quite often, law enforcement channels, so we can communicate with them through there. Humane Society, Portage County Highway Department, Stevens Point and Plover Streets, monitor those all the time. The Wisconsin DNR, and that is just for game wardens, but it's also for the fire wardens too, that we monitor and page out and dispatch. UWSP Police and City Transit. There's a lot of communication with the City Transit that we go back and forth with. So some of the other duties I have up here that we like to talk about is doing research for detectives and deputies when they're out on calls of service to get them more information, whether it could be bond conditions or anything from alert, caution data on certain people. If they have had any prior warnings, even a traffic warning, the officers that are going out there doing these traffic stops want to know about these types of things about previous people. So that is a lot of the research that is done. We enter the warrants for five law enforcement agencies, that's including State Patrol. For anything that goes through the court system here in Portage County, we are the ones that are entering all the warrants through our agency. We enter missing persons, stolen vehicles, stolen property, any other things from all three law enforcement agencies. We enter restraining orders and continually update those. And the last one is because people don't know who else to call, so they'll call the comm center. And so we're known as Google. There's a lot of the dispatchers say I'm just nothing but Google because they don't know who else to call. So they will call us to try to find the answers. And hopefully we can give them the resources that we can to add to that. So that's a lot of things people don't know. Now I'm going to go into asking you guys questions. The last 12 months, I did this as of noon today. Do you know how many phone calls we've taken in the comm center? Would you like to guess?
80,000.
80,000. Joe, you want to guess?
I'm trying to do the math in my head. Say 40,000.
Anybody else?
Yeah, how long a period of time? is
12 months, last 12 months.
Been
From
12
June
months.
4th,
I'm gonna say more like close to 100,000.
Denise, are these all calls?
yes,
Okay. I was
114,000.
gonna say over 100,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can break that down. Emergent calls for the last 12 months, 16,000. And that's just basically 5 people at one time, maybe answering 4 people. Non-emergent calls, 98,018. The average month for every month is 9,489 phone calls that come into the comm center. That's just coming in. That's not the phone calls that they are giving out for tow services or contact the Humane Society or anybody else. That is just incoming phone calls coming into the comm center. So for the peak month, I looked that up, and that was last July. And for just the month of July, there was 10,807 phone calls. And it is a lot, and it's a lot because people are more out in the summer months. Summer months do seem to get busy unless it's a weather day and a snow day when people forget how to drive. Then there's lots and lots of calls. So that's just the phone calls. So for the calls of service, and the calls of service can range from traffic stops to community contact to lost dog, animal, to an ambulance call, keys locked in vehicle in the village of Plover. They still provide that service. And just even civil process or civil suit matters that we're not actually even sending an officer out to, that we handle ourselves. As of January 1st, 2019 till today, the total number of calls was 25,193 calls of service so far that the contacts have recorded. So, and what that picture is on the bottom is basically
That's- yeah,
what
I've
our
had that
CAD
figured
system
out. I was
looks
doing it
like.
by-
And how everybody can set up, there's different, and we have 6 screens, which I can show you a picture of that too. I will be showing you a picture of that, and they can set them up. So when Joe and the ambulance, they're out, they will have their own specific call and all the information on that. And the dispatchers can see who is been assigned to that, if that's not the dispatcher that took the call and assigned to those units, or it could be somebody else. And all the comments that are in that CAD notes of what is going on with that call of service. So it's a lot of information, and it keeps everybody well organized. I'm going to go into the training now, and retention, and recruitment, because this has been, if I had a magic wand of how to make this better, I so would, because it's not. We have a critical testing that we do for all of the candidates that have been selected after the first set of interviews. And that critical states that 4% of the population can do the job. That means 96% of the population cannot. Our last person that has succeeded our training program was in 2017. We have not been able to find any individuals that have been able to take on the stress. And there's more things to it of what is entailed to do our job, and it is becoming harder and harder. We're not alone. We interviewed one candidate from Arkansas. She wants to move back to the area. We will be hiring her. Her communications center has 33 positions. They have 13 dispatchers right now, experienced dispatchers, and are training 17 at one time, which is, they're training more people than they have experience. We don't do that. We actually follow a process. The average length of service for a communication technician, and this is throughout the United States, is 10 years. And the reason why is because of the stress. It is such a stressful job. That picture up there, somebody thought that was Bonnie Drescher at one point as a cartoon. She was one of our former dispatchers who's retired, but it's not. That is just a cartoon that somebody created many years ago of what it looks like to be a 911 dispatcher.
Denise, I have a question.
Sure. Uh-oh.
What's the average salary of a dispatcher?
We start off, a couple years ago, the county did a wage study, and it's, I don't remember what the actual salary annual is. It starts off about $20 an hour. So it's not.
Do you think you'd be able to tap into more of the 4% if they bump that up to?
Yeah, we have lost. I've lost an experienced dispatcher. She had over 10 years of experience in Wood County, and she would have been taking a $3 an hour cut in pay. And she just said her family can't do it. We can't lose that much. It would help.
Has it been
but-
proposed?
Yeah.
Has it? It has, okay.
With this wage study, we had, we did get an increase. It's probably not what everybody should have been at to begin with, of where we should have started to bring us up to the level that we should start. It just really,
Because I can't imagine the stress level, and that needs to be compensated. It's, or should be at least.
should be. Yes, it should be. Go ahead, Bob.
Denise, what's the typical work schedule? I mean, how many hours are they on, how many off?
They're working 7 consecutive days. So it's actually 2 work weeks because they are not sworn officers. We have to follow the Garcia Act for the state of Wisconsin. So they start, the work week starts on a Sunday, and ends on a Saturday. So the dispatchers start on Wednesdays and work 10 hours, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday of one work week. And then they work Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of the next work week, so it's consecutive hours. There's 11-hour shifts at nighttime. And of course, that doesn't add up to 80 hours every 2 weeks. So we incorporate all their vacation. So I don't have to plan for 16 different vacations, 18 actually, vacations, because it's all built into their schedule. So if, say somebody who's new that doesn't have a lot of vacation and their hours don't add up to the full 2,088 hours, we have to schedule them for extra days off. And of course, we have people that do have the extra vacation hours, so they get days off too for that. So they usually, it kind of works out and balances the county owed, we call it county owed hours, county owed.
You said the night shift went 11, well, what's the other shifts?
10, we have actually 2 day shifts, 2 afternoon shifts, and then 2 night shifts. And so they'll work that full shift, that full consecutive day, 7 days. 6 to 4 is a shift, and then a 9 to 7. So it's 2 basic day shifts. Night shifts, even afternoon shifts is a 4 p.m. to 3 a.m., that's an 11-hour shift, and then there's another night shift that comes in at 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. And if we were fully staffed, there would be 2 people coming in for each of those shifts at the same time. So, the county did studies years and years and years ago about our 7 consecutive days, and the number of dispatchers we would have had to have hired back then, and I'm talking 25 years ago, it was astronomical. There was just no way we would have to hire back then, and then we only had 10 dispatchers. We would have had to hire at least another 5. So now it just, the schedule works. And plus, we are short-staffed, so the ComTechs are either stretching to work 12-hour days, or they're coming in on their days off a lot.
The other question I was wondering, when I look at that picture, typically a dispatcher, how many screens and how many calls are they handling at one time? Are they on a call, or are they handling 3, 4?
They're handling 3 or 4.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, they're handling, there's, that shows 8 screens, we have 6. So that one's a little different, but there are some similarities, and it looks like that's Texas, somewhere in the state of Texas. The essential skills that are needed to be a part of that 4%, able to multitask, and that's what you talked about, Bob. They have to be able to answer the radio with the officer, type in the location of that traffic stop, be on the phone with someone else. So it's just not multitasking, it's also multi-listening. And this is where a lot of people can't make it, even though they've gone through the testing, they cannot multi-listen. And that is just the key, because when you're in your headset and you're on the phone with somebody, that officer or ambulance or somebody else is calling in on the speaker coming through the radio system. And so that's coming out of there. So they're going to have to hear in this ear, and they're going to have to hear in this ear. 2 separate continual things. That's part of the 4%. Quick decision and excellent problem-solving skills, again with the Google. Again with the quick decision-making, because it could save somebody's life with those decisions that are made. Prioritization of emergent situations. Some people just don't seem to understand the prioritization, and can that be trained? I don't. That's another magic wand I would like to have. Computer skills with multiple screens, and as you can see down there or over here, the bottom right corner, that is what our positions look like. Each and every one of them have that. And if I'm going to offer it now, if anybody wants to come into the comm center, please give me a call. I would find a way to have everybody come in and sit for 4 hours with a ComTech to get a better understanding. Even that 4 hours, it's just amazing. But they, good customer service skills, that's a key, because every single person, they're their coworkers, officers, responders, or the coworkers in that room are the same, are customers and have to have the customer service. Handling high-stress situations? Absolutely. Hearing those officers on the radio of shots fired, I've been there, done that, heard them. Ron's probably been on a few when I've been on duty. It just, you just do not understand what that is like. Or when we have a 3-year-old that is seizing and their mom is screaming on the phone. You know, it's amazing, the calls that can come through. Good active listening? Everybody has to, because if we're not active listening to what they're saying and clarifying what they're saying, we could be missing some really key points. Good visual information being given, that is why we have to active listen, and that every dispatcher visually sees the calls so they can give that information out to the officers or responders that are going out. Teamwork, everybody in that room, no matter if they're working on the city side or the county side, hear each other, hear what's going on, and can help each other with all the calls. And think outside the box, and this is huge, because we have to have a different perspective. We cannot have the citizen's perspective. We have to have that perspective of law enforcement. We have to have that perspective of keeping public safety workers and ambulance and fire and everybody else that's out there from first responders safe. So we have to have that different perspective. So that is just what part of the 4% is. This is a true statement. You have to have a license to cut hair in the state of Wisconsin, but you do not have to have a license to answer 911. A lot of states do. They have mandated training, and the state of Wisconsin does not. Why? We're trying to get that pushed through. We're trying to get it pushed through on even a federal level. It just hasn't occurred yet. So the hiring process. We complete someone completes an application or resume. We have an interview with the board. They take the critical exam. And from there, we do extensive backgrounds. Every person that has been selected to do a background, their backgrounds come back and they're usually about this thick. And it is from previous employers. It's from records checks, it's from financial checks, it's from everything, because that's the way we know accountability can be a key factor in hiring somebody. Second interview with myself, the sheriff, and the chief deputy, and then the sheriff makes his offer of contingent with pre-employment. And pre-employment is audio, they have to hear out of both ears, and we do a psychological exam too. Which luckily I've only had one in the last 25 years, not past that. So,
Denise, how many other apartments use that critical for their entrance hiring process?
a lot. When we went over and looked at Brown counties to see what it was all about, Marathon County was with us, Wood County, and Wapaka. No, Wapaka was already trying to piggyback off of another county. I don't know if that's occurring anymore because it's a standalone. We have the software, we purchased the software so we can give it. It can only be done one time or one test at a time for one person, but yeah, it's a lot. And I think there's some, I mean, years ago we used to have the Perflex test. That Perflex test was a handmade state patrol test that did all kinds of multitasking, and it did its job of seeing who was able to do that. But after that, we didn't. We just so. So we have training. The next step is to train. We have initial training is 16 to 18 weeks, and that is one-on-one training. And that's experienced or not, even if with the dispatchers that I've already just hired, contingent one is contingent from Brown County, moving back over to the area, and the other one I talked about from Arkansas. We will be putting them through the exact same training program that we do our inexperienced dispatchers. After that, first year, it's completely ongoing training. I still remember when I started thinking, oh my goodness, after 1 year, I'm going to be able to know everything. No way. No way. 28 years later, we're still learning. I mean, we learn all the time. I give at least 1 or 2 in-service per year, and that is with EMS, that is with other things like MABUS, which is for the fire service. I try to hold those locations of in-service different places. We've had it at Stevens Point Fire Department. They got to play in the smoke room. That was fun. That was 2 years ago. We just did it at Sentry, so I could get all the comtechs through the Sentry building so they could have an understanding and an insight of what it's like working in a city and its site itself. And Amherst and just other locations, so they can get a better insight because they can't leave their room when they're working. And this way, I can get them out into other areas. Certifications that, even though the state does not require that we have to have certifications, Portage County, we do. CPR, and that is also part of our EMD. Emergency medical dispatching, we have to be certified CPR to be an EMD certified person. And then the time system, and that's where we run all of our warrant checks, license checks, driver's license checks, enter warrants, enter stolen vehicles, enter missing persons. That is all, and all 3 of those are certified for biannually. We have to have recertifications. This is what our phone system looks like. If you can't really see it, but on the left side of the screen, that is what a 911 call looks like coming in, whether it be a cell phone or whether it be a landline. And with the cell phones, it will give the phone number, but not the address, specific address. It will go ping off a tower, and it will, depending on the vendor, it could get close to that location. And the boat lights, those are for if somebody walks in the room to tell whether they're on a phone call or not, so they're not being bothered, interrupted. This is what our pre-arrival screens look like. When we ask the questions, when we first get a medical emergency, someone calls for an ambulance, this is the questions that we follow, and it is strict following these questions. And we can give, after this first screen of the key questions, we can give CPR, we can find out if there's ineffective breathing, we can find out if there's a stroke, do diagnostics on strokes to let the ambulance crew know. And when we're typing all this information in to each answer, that is immediately getting put into the CAD system, and the ambulance providers are able to see that real time, which then helps them be prepared to go in for what it is. So with the EMS, countywide EMS system, it starts with our EMD. This is our list of experience. Myself, Tim Peterson, and Penny Oliver have 28 plus years. Penny actually was on the city police department for 10 years before she came over. And as you see there, we have dispatchers, more than half, that have had 10 plus years of experience. And I have a good group of people, and I'm extremely proud of all of them because they have really been doing everything that needs to be done with the short-staffed. And if you see that there, Mary Claire Nicholson, she's only been there 2 months, so she's still in training. And our mission statement, I put that out years ago to ask if we could have all of us get together and do our own mission statement. And everybody worked as teamwork on that mission statement. We were still county dispatchers, but everybody fully believes in that. So that is my presentation, and I thank you so much for your time and your attention and listening. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy.
Denise, I have just a couple before I follow up. First of all, thank you. That was very informative, very interesting. Would you clarify for the commission, how many dispatchers do you currently have? I wrote 2 numbers down here. What do you have right now today?
Today, fully trained,
Right.
not hired.
Right.
I have 10.
Okay. And
6 short.
And with the couple that you have alluded to that are coming, where are you going to be Where are you projecting to be 30 days from now?
30 days from now?
60, somewhere in
60.
there.
How about 60? How about 90 days from now?
All right, 90 days, you have 10 right now, okay.
Right.
All right, how many, another 2?
Another
You'll
2.
be at 12. Okay. What is your authorized strength?
What, I guess, what do you mean by authorized? Minimals?
How many are you allowed to have?
Yeah.
You know, budget-wise and everything
16.
else? 16.
You are authorized to have 16 as of the 2019 budget cycle.
Yes, and then 2 supervisors and myself. So that's 18, 19 of us.
Okay.
That is
Okay.
all
Say
that's in
that's
my
16 dispatchers, and then the other 3
budget.
supervisors.
Right. So, Gary, if you really want to say it, 19, because that is
Yeah.
myself in the budget, my salary, and then Comtax, and that's not including overtime, which is gone.
But you're right. I mean, I certainly remember all the years you were a dispatcher or a comm person. But how much of that do you really still do, or are you able to do because of your
Because
time?
I'm short-staffed, I go in at 7 a.m. and I dispatch until 10 a.m.
Do you?
And then
Okay.
I have to do my own duties after that.
Okay.
Well, I try to do some sitting at the desk, that just doesn't happen.
So at some point, does your office working with the sheriff, I guess what I'm thinking here, you shared an alarming statistic for me, 114,000 plus phone calls in the last 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
Is that number consistent? Is it growing? When you looked at the last 12 months, you said, oh, I got 114,000, which is a lot. That was a mind-boggling number for me. Is that consistent with the last 2 or 3 years, or is it growing exponentially?
No, it actually has dropped. And I'm going to be just honest with the commission. It's dropped because of the parking, overnight parking. Overnight parking, we took astronomical number of phone calls during the night. And it was usually, and I'm sorry I don't have that number with me right now, but the average night was 20 to 30 phone calls a night
Okay.
of additional parking. And that's an average night of 7 days. That's not, and most of those calls were Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. If I could go back and do the numbers, which unfortunately I can't, Missy Pitcher is the one that she hand counted each call of service for the overnight parking. That was a
So
lot.
the county, armed with that knowledge, and you shared with us a statistic that you have about 98,000 plus non-emergency calls. At some point, is there an evaluation of, okay, well, we were able to move a healthy chunk of non-emergency overnight parking requests off the books? Are there other calls in that enormous file of 98,000 that could be triaged and moved somewhere else?
No.
Has it been studied?
Yes, and it has, and cell phones, of course, that portion has gone up considerably. We'll get an accident out on I-39, we'll probably have 7 to 10 phone calls just for that one accident. Even though they might see an officer or an ambulance responding up to that location and stopping, and people are still gonna be calling. It's amazing. And those are the phone calls that come through. The sheriff every year has requested 2 additional dispatchers.
Okay.
We have, and every year it has been denied. Our county executive, Chris Holman now, is fully aware of it. He sat in the comm center one night for a full 11 hours and got to see what it's all about, and I think it was UWSP graduation weekend.
Denise,
plan that.
Denise, off the top of your head, how many, you say every year they've asked for 2 additional dispatchers. Has that been for the last 3 years, 5 years? Do you remember off the top of your head?
No, I think well, I know it's been since Sheriff Luke has been in office, Lucas, he's been in 4 years, he's going on his 5th. And I believe Sheriff Charwitz had also requested.
All right, we'd want to look at that. Is there an industry, and this will be my last question, I won't hog the thing. Is there an industry standard that says you're a county dispatch center you have X number of square miles, you have X number of population, you have all of those different folks you're dispatching. Is there an industry standard that says you should be at 18? First of all, the question, is there an industry standard or a guideline that we could look at and say, well, we know we need X number of firefighters for fire station 1 and 2 to meet standards? Is there any standard in that area in your line of work, Denise?
No, there was that dispatch study that was done prior to the consolidation of the city and county dispatch centers. And where the consultants got those numbers from, I don't know. I think it's probably with an industry standard, because how else would they get that? And that is what I talked about of there was 20, recommended of 20, and 5, and then myself.
Other questions for Denise? I don't want to just talk
No.
this here.
No, I enjoyed it.
Commissioner?
Great job.
I got just two quick ones for you. One is, how can you cut off these nuisance calls? You know, where's the nearest McDonald's and stuff like that? Are you allowed to just cut them off, or are you not?
What do you mean, cut them off, hang up on them, or
Well,
just
yeah,
cut
terminate
into
the
the
call
phone
some way,
conversation?
you know, get the call to an end.
I've heard my dispatchers say you need to be a parent, because that's a lot of them. People don't want to parent their children anymore, so they call us to send officers, and that's just a sad situation. We're a service provider, and being a service provider with that customer service skills that are needed, if somebody needs directions to something, we have to provide that for them, and I want to provide that for them.
My other question for you is, you've been doing it this long. You, obviously, there's a reason behind it. Why are you sticking with it? Why are these long-term veterans sticking with it, yet the new generation is bailing on you?
Well, it's not even the new generation. I just think it takes that certain type of person. I have some dispatchers that weren't even born when I started, and Tim started, and Penny started. That's how young they are. 21, I think, is the youngest that I have right now, and doing a phenomenal job. So it's got to be that type of person that does have the passion to do the job. I'm addicted to stress. I'll admit it. I love doing the job. I enjoy being out there now. The 3 hours that I'm out there, not as fast as I used to be, but it just takes that special person to do it, no matter what age.
All right, Denise,
Where do you look for people to hire for this job? I mean, because I've looked in different places for jobs and that kind of stuff, and I've never seen an ad for a dispatcher opening.
We have law enforcement websites that we use. We go to the tech colleges. I'm wanting to work more with the tech colleges. It's out on Facebook. I will get about 45 applicants, and this last time we were going to interview 15. 6 people didn't show up. I personally called those people to make interview times, and we had 6 people that didn't show up. And we have a no-show contest that usually goes on.
all right, Denise, I'm going to thank you. I know Commissioner Carlson
Yep.
is going to continue working with you and Sheriff Lucas and our chiefs. Thank you. We could probably keep going all night, but we do have a lengthy agenda. So thank you, Denise. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Enjoy your vacation, too.
All right, and say hello to your mother and father for me, will you?
Well, they'll be on vacation with me.
All right, thank you. Okay, item 4 is the approval of the minutes from May 7th, 2019. Commissioners, you have the minutes in your packet.
Commissioner Westcott, one question.
Yeah, Joseph.
Comptroller Laddick wanted to know if you needed him for closed session.
I don't know. Well, are you doing the update, or are we doing?
I'll be able to do the update. I just got a text from him, wanted to know if you.
I'm going to leave it up to you.
I don't think you need him, and if there's any specific follow-up questions, I can
Tell him if I have
definitely
any
give them to you.
follow-ups, I'll call him tomorrow.
Perfect.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes from our meeting on May 7th.
I'll second that.
I don't even know who made the motion.
I don't think anybody did.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Moore, seconded by Commissioner Kirschling.
There
All
goes
in
that
favor,
critical test.
Please say aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank
you were
you.
making the motion.
Well, maybe I should have done that. Item 5, the confirmation of the bills. Commissioner Ostrowski, you have reviewed the bills. Anything you wish to point out to the commission?
Well, no, if grabbing the fire department and the ambulance, just a quick look at them, you'll notice that some items seem duplicated. It's just simply a matter that some bills were split half and half between the two services, between fire and ambulance. That's the reason. Again, the big expenditures are training or tuition. On the police department, while the thing is quite lengthy, a couple of items contribute to it. The Baycom, for instance, at 2,900, that's a computer system for a squad. You got the Permar Security Services for 1,594. That's our half shared with the transit system of new automatic door release, the little tokens that get you in and out of buildings. Ours were malfunctioning and they needed to be replaced. Further down, you see there's a few under fire extinguishers and that's all the squads had to have their fire extinguishers recharged, etc. So it all comes at one. And then, of course, we got uniforms that will pop up both for chaplains and for honor guard, which add to the cost. And on the flip side, we got a snowplow parking lot thing, which hopefully is the end of them, that they're all taken care of, because that adds up in a hurry. Again, the police department has a number of things that add up to training for a little over $1,000 from last month too, but training makes our department more professional, so I don't have a problem with that. Anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Chief, I'm curious in the Dane County Treasurer for 225, just curious.
Which chief and?
Can be you, police department.
That's an excellent question.
There's the top chiefs give them. Dane County Treasurer, registration, there must be some kind of a
That would be
training or
a
something?
class.
All right, that's what I thought. All right. I'll move approval of the bills as submitted by our two chiefs.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 6, the approval of the fire department eligibility leave, list, not leave, list. Chief Gimsa.
Have you guys received it or not?
I don't have it.
I don't know.
No.
I do not
Do I walk
have
it up to you, or?
Would you please?
I'm not 100% sure if he's shaking his head. I'm presenting the list.
So presented.
And so it presented.
3 candidates?
3 candidates, that is correct.
All right, I will move approval.
Camera, you know.
I will move approval of the eligibility list as submitted by the
first guy
fire
on the
department.
Never heard of them.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Kirschling. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. I need that list back to sign.
Got it.
Item 7 is the fire chief's report. Actually, I thought I was supposed to sign this, but I guess not. Joseph, you're up for item number 7.
Item number 7, would you like me to start the video, the suicide prevention video?
You might want to do a little lead-in, make sure everybody...
Yep, I most certainly will.
Do it,
This
Joseph.
is in correlation with Portage County suicide prevention. This presentation, video public service was in works with Stevens Point Police Department, UWSP Police Department, Plover Police Department, and Stevens Point Fire Department, along with SPASH. The Sarah from the city video, she did the videotaping of it and doing the editing and stuff like that. We're really proud to present that. It was out on our Facebook page and it was presented to the community to just show support for people with mental health awareness.
Suicide Prevention and Mental Health Awareness Coalition of Portage County is made up of compassionate professionals in our community that provide resources for suicide prevention, support for loss survivors, and hope for those who may be struggling with mental health issues.
Strength. 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 Courage. 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 Support. Support. Support.
Faith.
Hope.
Have the courage to stop the stigma. Be the voice, provide the strength, feel the support.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, it was well done.
Really well done. I think it's also on the city website, too, if you want to go back and take a peek at it. Joe, thanks for showing that. What else in the, you haven't even really started the fire chief report or EMS, please?
No, I have not. I also wanted to mention that Drew Egan, the fire marshal, is now a certified fire inspector, accredited through the National Fire Protection Association. Part of the real benefits is that it enhances our professionalism, it ensures our proficiency in the use of the codes and the standards nationally and locally. It gives credibility to that position for when he develops the process for fire inspection and plan development, and ensures really a uniform and fair process across the board so that the people and the business owners of Stevens Point have a better understanding of our code and our code enforcement. So hats off to Drew. This is really given, I guess what you'd say, footing to the fire marshal program, and it's no small feat. So, and that's through the National Fire Academy.
Is that some type of, does he have to, what type of continuing education goes with that? Do you know, Chief?
I do not know what kind of continuation
I would
it
imagine
does,
that would
but
be
he's
extensive.
the plan is that he continues on with this, because as codes change
Right.
and as the things change, it's a never-ending.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. All right. Well, please convey to our fire marshal the commission's most heartfelt appreciation for the job well done.
I most certainly will.
Thank you, Joe.
The other thing I just wanted to point out in the EMS activities is the Dementia Awareness Week. We partnered with Portage County Aging and Disability Resource Center with celebrating Dementia Awareness Week, which was May 12th through the 18th. As you guys are well aware, we have an increasingly rising run volume to dementia patients in the elderly population. So what we did is the Department of Aging bought actually us purple shirts with the Stevens Point Fire Department emblem on them, and then we had their emblem on there for support, the Purple Angel, and we wore them for that week. We also sent Glenn Novak out to participate in the Reeling in the Memories, where different organizations brought in people with memory issues, and they went fishing out at the Lions Camp. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that. That was also on our Facebook page. And we also celebrated EMS Week in the month of May with our paramedics. So it's kind of the short and the quick of it.
Are there any questions for Chief Gemsa?
I just see the EMS calls seem to be really down this year. As I was looking at the totals compared to not really down, but 300 or so. And
yeah, they are down, and that's to be expected. Pullover ambulance came in April 1st of 2018. So what you're going to see is that a trend.
Yeah.
The numbers for last year stayed exactly the same, or not exact, but where we expected them to be, and nothing here is new.
or a
with
surprise.
That. Nope.
Yeah, okay.
I will move approval of the fire chief's report as presented by Assistant Chief Gemsa.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ostrowski. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item number 8 this afternoon is the police chief's report. Chief Skibba.
So as you can see, pretty busy, obviously, this past month. The notes of interest I'd like to bring your attention to, however, couple of things. The family shoot, it's our second annual, obviously recognizing what officers and their families are faced with. We felt it's a great way to bring more buy-in with spouses and adult children, because quite frankly, if in fact something happens and our personnel are unable to use their weapon, whether it's the spouse or another family member who can render it safe, or defend themselves, we think is very critical. We actually added our daytime staff as well, inviting them, because obviously whether it's myself, unfortunately, in the Records Bureau and I have a heart attack or something, again, someone needs to make sure that that high liability thing is safe, that they're comfortable handling. And so very, very well attended, and the organization actually provided food, so we were able to grill out and actually, again, work on connecting and having a good relationship and reaching out to the family members. And as we recognize the wellness and mental health aspect of it, great outreach.
Can I just add, don't forget about the retirees who came out there to shoot from 8 to 12. Unfortunately, we didn't have the big, I'm just kidding.
Because you guys were so good
Right.
at it, you got done a lot quicker, so we actually plan on having you come in later. So
I
you
thought they
can,
got done quicker
so-
because you didn't give them ammunition this year.
Right, yeah.
And yes, there were no misses that way.
I see.
So,
Perfect scores?
Yep, pretty close.
All right.
but yeah, so again, and just working on making sure that our retirees aren't forgotten, that our family are not forgotten. As we had the dispatch presentation, all of us experienced quite a stressful work environment. A shout out to our investigation bureau and patrol. We had a burglary in progress. Hats off to the citizen who actually had a camera system, and within 8 hours, we were able to resolve that burglary, recover a safe, recover money that had been stolen. We had an armed robbery. We are working on, we know the suspect, and we're not concerned about others within the community, but an AR type rifle was used in that robbery, and we are finding more weapons are being used. Whether it's knives, whether it's bats. We had a call this morning of a person running around in the neighborhood with a baseball bat. It's kind of a sign of the time, sadly. A positive shout out, however, from the mental health side of things. Had a call of a subject that was having a mental health episode. Officers arrived on the scene, broke into a second-story bedroom where the person was already going out the window, and the officers were able to get a hold of the subject, bring them back in, get them the help they needed. And those are the things that I think we need to remind the community more of, as well as this commission, of the positives. It's not just a matter of that the cop giving somebody a ticket, but we are out there taking care of this community.
See, it was another high month for emergency detentions, though, just.
Very high.
It is increasing, and it's, I know through Justice Works, we're working on different opportunities connecting throughout the county. How do we provide services? How do we connect? Whether it's our veterans liaison, whether it's our crisis intervention officer, but yes.
On those emergency detentions, after they are over, is there any feedback to the department on the longer term, or they're released, or?
We're aware of where the person is going, not going, things like that, but our role is relatively small, although critical, and our role, because these numbers are not symptomatic of just Stevens Point. This is state and nationwide, to the point where actually at the state level, legislation is taking a look at how do we shorten up the time that law enforcement is in contact with these individuals. When you look at a state like Illinois, officers go to the scene, person is taken into protective custody, turned over to an ambulance service, and they're immediately taken into a mental health facility. And again, how do you expedite that? There's a shortage of mental health providers within Wisconsin. And so again, it's a work in progress.
Are some of these then, some of these be repeaters? I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. On a general month, we will see a person for the first time, and then maybe 2 or 3 more times in a committal situation before a full safety plan is put into effect, where they are being treated, but they have an episode. We respond to them. So a few of these are repeat, but when we start hitting 19 detentions, it's well past repeat customers, sadly, or victims in some respects. Those would be the highlights of my report.
Thank you, Chief. Are there questions for Chief Skibble?
Nope.
Got a couple, just,
Go ahead.
you know, is I right that, Ray Pataki, ended his term?
He did
with us?
retire in January.
And who is now the lead guy on auxiliary?
Actually, Benjamin Kubota is our civilian who oversees it, but we do have a supervisor, which would be Lieutenant Spath, that does all the scheduling. Many times he is out at, even when Pataki was there. So we still have law enforcement presence there.
Right, but Benjamin's kind of taking the lead on him now?
Yes.
All right, are there other questions for Chief Skibble? Thank you. Fine report. I'll entertain a motion.
Also move to accept the police
Commissioner
chief's
Carlson,
report.
seconded by
I'll second.
Commissioner Kirschling. All in favor of adopting the police chief's report as it is submitted to the Police and Fire Commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Both say no. Item 9 is an adjournment into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 1985 1E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session for an update on EMS ambulance contract negotiations. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn into closed session.
Go ahead,
I'll
John.
make a motion and go into closed session.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Kirschling, Commissioner Carlson, would you please call the roll?
Carlson?
Yes.
Kirschling?
Yes.
Moore?
Aye.
Ostrowski?
Yes.
Westcott?
Yes, we're in closed session, so we'll give the camera an opportunity to shut down. Barry, of course, stay.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.